Own people, dude. My 16-year-old just found out that his dad isn't his real dad anymore because of my bitter sister. She claims it's for his own good, but in what way is that for his own good? When I found out I was pregnant with my son, I made the logical choice to pick the father that made the most money. His real dad was working at McDonald's for like $8.25 an hour. I don't want that as a man. He was just one of my hoes, and that was that. And I got pregnant, and so I picked the richer dad. And although the richer dad didn't take care of him and hasn't been around, he does pay child support, and he pays a lot, and it pays for a majority of my rent. Well, my sister never liked that, and I finally let her have my son thinking I could trust. And she tells my son and confides in him that his dad isn't his real dad. And now he went and found his real dad behind my back with my sister. And they are all trying to fight and get my son taken away from me. My son doesn't want to live in my house. We haven't talked in 3 days. I think it's the most miserable thing a person can ever do is ruin some shit like that.
You put me in such an uncomfortable situation.
I picked the right choice. Now who's going to pay my bills now? Because now they also told that the guy that's been on child support all these years, and he's trying to come after me and sue me for all the money he's been paying. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I didn't do
30 years, all this time, you believe this young girl was your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. And I've been 4 to 5 years in jail, and it gets rough.
4 to 5 years in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
For unpaid child support.
Yes, ma'am.
For a young woman that calls you and then says, some family member told me you may not even be my biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
You actually have a court date tomorrow.
1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
Concerning the child support for this young woman that you're still behind on.
Yes, ma'am.
You could be thrown back in jail again for being behind, and yet you still don't know whether you're her biological father.
True, I don't. I don't know if I'm her dad or not.
Have you ever been arrested for anything else besides this child support issue?
Never, ma'am. Nothing.
Just getting behind in child support.
Yes, ma'am, that's it. It's the only time I've ever been in jail.
What were your revelations?
I counted back months. I was like, wait a minute. There's a month or two here that I wasn't even down there, and she's supposed to be pregnant at this time.
You started doing some math, and you felt like it didn't add up.
Yes, ma'am.
You said, well, the window of conception would have been around this time, and
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
this may or may not be mine. As it pertains to the paternity of Ms. Brandy Lapine. Ms. Lapine, Mr. Richard Lapine is not your biological father.
He went to jail. She cheated, lied about paternity, and shattered 2 lives. And somehow, she'd probably walk away without a single day behind bars. Let that sink in. Before we dive in, drop a comment. Are modern men more delusional, or is it the ladies? Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what we expose next. Now, let's talk about what's really happening here. The wife cheated. That alone destroys trust. But it didn't stop there. She lied not just to her husband, but to her own daughter. She let a man believe he was a father. She let a child believe she knew who her dad was. That's not just betrayal. That's identity fraud at an emotional level. And yet, if history is any indicator, she likely won't face the same consequences he did. That's where people start asking uncomfortable questions. Why is it that when a man makes a mistake, especially one that involves legal technicalities or emotional reaction, the system moves fast? Charges, court dates, handcuffs. But when paternity deception is exposed, suddenly it's complicated. Suddenly it's, let's consider her feelings. Feelings. What about the man who invested years, time, money, emotional attachment, believing he was raising his biological child? What about the daughter who now has to process that her entire foundation was built on a lie? These are the real victims. But watch what usually happens next. The person who gets caught cries the loudest. You'll hear things like, I was scared. I didn't want to lose my family. I made a mistake. And somehow, accountability turns into a sympathy tour. This is a pattern we've seen before. When deception gets exposed, the narrative often flips. the focus shifts from the act itself to how painful it is for the one who committed it to face consequences. It becomes less about the damage done and more about the discomfort of being held responsible. That's a cultural problem. We live in a time where accountability feels optional, especially when it clashes with the soft life fantasy. The idea that you can make selfish choices, secure stability from someone else, and if the truth comes out, you just explain it away with emotions. But biology doesn't care about narratives. DNA doesn't care about feelings. And truth doesn't care who it embarrasses. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Paternity fraud isn't just cheating. It's a long-term deception that reshapes another person's life without their informed consent. That conversation makes people uneasy. Neighbors, it challenges the idea that only one gender can be victims in relationship dynamics. No, wrong is wrong. If equality means anything, it has to include accountability on both sides, because when deception becomes protected by sympathy, trust between men and women erodes even further. And then people wonder why modern dating feels like a battlefield instead of a partnership. This situation is tragic, not because someone got exposed, but because two innocent people had to suffer before the truth came out. And that's the part we shouldn't ignore.
Test. You know that that's your kid. I will never give you a DNA test. That's not going to happen. No. Because I know of course not.
But if he's asking for it.
I will not go it. I did my research. I will never ever give him a DNA test. You will need to take.
Body count's 11, and no, it doesn't matter. Unless it's like excessively high.
Why do all girls say it doesn't matter though? Because it obviously matters to a point. There's got to be a point where you're like, all right, nah.
That's what I'm saying. If it's like.
So where's your cutoff point? When you're like,
I'd say like
down.
40 for a guy.
Okay, what about a girl?
Girls can do what they want. They can have as many bodies as they want.
What about you? What's your personal beliefs on that?
I would like to not exceed 25 before I get married.
When do you plan on getting married?
I don't know. I'm not even anywhere close to a relationship, so I can't.
If men didn't exist, there'd be no war, there'd be fewer crimes, there'd be less violence, there'd be fewer billionaires.
It strikes me as funny that the majority of individuals that make this type of content that think that the world would be so much better without men are obviously not students of history or the human condition.
There'd be less homelessness, there'd be equal pay, there'd be less oppression, there'd be less poverty, there'd be universal health care. All the money used to fund the military would instead contribute to free education.
Sadly, it is often the most uninformed individuals that often speak the loudest.
Affordable housing, livable wages, and environmental efforts. Period products would be free. There'd be no need for birth control and all of its side effects. There'd be no need for women's rights or Me Too movements.
It's amazing how blind a person can be when they actually believe that men are the root of all evil, and seemingly they don't think that women can do any wrong.
There'd be no abortion debate. Toilet seats would never be left up. There'd be more self-love. There'd be less body shaming.
What? More self-love and less body shaming if men didn't exist? Yeah, it doesn't seem like they've experienced much of reality, because in my experience, it's usually women that do the most of that, not men. But again, let's go on.
The world in general would be safer, cleaner, and more comfortable. Land would be shared, not stolen. There'd be less hate, and there'd be less fear. Let me know if I missed anything, and try telling me that I'm wrong.
A person doesn't really actually have to try that hard to point out how egregiously incorrect it is to say that half of the human population does all the wrong while the other half can do nothing wrong. I'll just leave that there.
Huh? A few years ago, my oldest daughter had to take a DNA test for school just to figure out ancestry. During the DNA test, she came to me very, very sad because apparently me and her were not related. I was like, huh? When she told me this, I had to keep a straight face because the immediate shock was just wild. Then I decided to go with her to get a paternity test done. When we got the paternity test done, it was also concluded that I was not her father. At this point, I was shocked. I've had 4 kids with my wife, and she was the oldest, and I needed to see how far this rabbit hole went. I told her to not let her mother know that we know this information, and then I went to my next oldest child. Not mine. I went to the one below that. Not mine. And then I decided to stop there because the youngest child is so young that this may directly affect them, and they don't really understand what's going on anyway. So I didn't even want to go into that rabbit hole, but when I got the information, I immediately was like, let me go talk to my wife about this. So, like always, she didn't take responsibility or any type of accountability, and she said, how are you going to believe your wife over these tests? I was like, are you serious? Are you like, for real, for real? Like, is this really where you're gonna go with this? Then she starts crying profusely and saying it was only one time. I didn't mean to do it. And I was like, it was only one time. hey. And then I showed her that each one of the children aren't mine, with the exception of the youngest, as so I think. That's when it dawned on me that it was one time, multiple times. And then when we looked, each one of the children's had different baby fathers, and somehow that made it even worse, because it wasn't just one person you was cheating on me with. This is a habitual thing with multiple different people that you probably don't know about. And I'm taking care of their kids. They're my kids. They're my kids. I've raised each and every one of them from a super young age, and they stood by me through this whole situation. But to think that she's not who she said she was, because up into that situation, I thought we had a great marriage. I thought we had a great life. I thought everything was going good. I thought that we were building together and already have built together. She is a stay-at-home mom that works on things that she wants to do. She takes care of the kids. She cooks. She cleans. She does everything that's needed inside of the relationship with me. Yet she didn't tell me that she wanted to go outside of the marriage. She didn't tell me that she wanted to do anything. Anyway, after finding out the information and getting her side of the story, I let her know I would need a couple.
We could literally play bingo with these responses. Not because this situation is funny, it's not, but because the script is so predictable, it almost feels rehearsed. He says she never takes accountability. He says he doesn't trust her. And what do we get? Crocodile tears. It was only one time. I didn't mean for it to happen. It didn't mean anything. Pause. How does something not mean anything? But somehow just happens. Notice the pattern. There's rarely a clean, direct statement like, I made a selfish decision. I knew it was wrong. I accept the consequences. Instead, it's minimization. Only one time. Like frequency is the issue. As if betrayal becomes acceptable if it's stamped with a limited edition label. Then comes the accidental framing. I didn't mean to do it. What does that even mean? Adults don't trip and fall into long-term deception. These are choices, sequences of decisions, text messages, meetings, lies stacked on top of lies. That's not a slip-up, that's a strategy. And the tears, that's the emotional pivot. Because once the tears start flowing, the focus shifts. Suddenly the conversation isn't about the betrayal anymore. It's about how hurt she feels now that she's exposed. This is what lack of accountability looks like in real time. Not screaming, not aggression, just deflection wrapped in vulnerability. And here's the deeper issue. When responses become this formulaic, it signals something cultural. We've normalized justification over responsibility. We've normalized protecting image over protecting integrity. It's almost like there's a playbook. Step 1, deny or downplay. Step 2, cry. Step 3, reframe yourself as misunderstood. Meanwhile, the person who was betrayed is expected to regulate their emotions perfectly. If he raises his voice, he's unstable. If he shuts down, he's cold. If he walks away, he's heartless. But where was that emotional consideration before the betrayal? This isn't about attacking one gender. This is about patterns. And patterns don't lie. When someone says they don't trust you anymore, that's not cruelty. That's consequence. Trust isn't rebuilt with tears. It's rebuilt with truth and consistent accountability. And that starts with dropping the script. Because until people stop performing remorse and start practicing responsibility, we're going to keep seeing the same episode, different faces, same lines.
It says I'm not the father of a 5-year-old son and that 7-year-old daughter. How's that even possible? How's that possible? Yeah, wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
First of all, don't ever wake me up. Like
No.
Secondly,
what you're about to do is open that goddamn paper up. What I'm going to tell you right now is this. You and your mother and these 2 kids.
Right.
I don't give a
Tell me this
I don't, because I just opened it.
You know what?
You, your mom,
you
and these 2 kids.
You said you ain't the father.
I'm not the father
well,
of these 2 children. Both of them. Both of them.
Out of here.
Both of them. Both of them. You out of here. You, your mom's and them out of here. Y'all out of here. Out.
Redo that.
Out. Out.
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I'm just going to say that applies to every adult. That applies to me. Yeah. Yet. I don't know what I'm doing. Yet. My business hasn't gotten traction. Yet. No one's picked up my book proposal. Yet.
Yes.
I haven't found my soulmate. Yet. Everything is yet.
The power of yet.
Power of yet.
I was sleeping with her around the time I got pregnant.
Merry Christmas.
What is it?
You'll see.
Medical papers? What is this?
Yeah, whose baby is that?
Yours.
Look, read the paper. 0% relation.
Yeah, do you really want to do this now?
Is there a better time for you?
It's Christmas.
I don't care. You think I'm gonna buy your kid Christmas presents?
Well, we're married, so this is legally your child right now.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I
knew I shouldn't have signed the birth certificate. You're not getting any child support out of me.
No, you are, because you signed the birth certificate.
No, that's court records right there. That's not my kid.
No,
Yeah.
This is getting shredded and put in the trash.
I'll get another
No,
one. Who's the father?
I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was.
This is the part that really makes people pause, because it's not just the cheating, it's the frequency, it's the chaos, it's the fact that it happens so often that paternity itself becomes a question mark. Think about that. Not knowing who the father is isn't just a mistake. That's a pattern of reckless behavior. That's repeated decisions. And yet, somehow, the embarrassment doesn't show up, at least not publicly. Instead of shame, you sometimes see strategy. Instead of remorse, you see planning. And that's where the outrage comes from. Because if you truly didn't know who the father was, the first instinct should be clarity and accountability. DNA test, transparency, honesty, clean it up. But when the focus shifts to, how do I secure child support from a man who may not even be biologically connected, that's when it starts to feel less like confusion and more like exploitation. Let's be clear. Child support exists to protect children. It's there so kids aren't left financially vulnerable. That's the principle. But when paternity is uncertain and someone still tries to leverage the system before confirming the facts, that erodes trust in the entire process. It reinforces a fear many men already carry that they can be held financially responsible first and ask questions later. And whether that fear is statistically common or not, stories like this amplify it. Now, zoom out. This isn't just about one woman. It's about a mindset. If there's no embarrassment about the betrayal, no urgency to clarify paternity, but there is urgency to secure payments, that sends a message. It says stability matters more than integrity. It says consequences are negotiable. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When systems are perceived as one-sided, resentment grows. Men start guarding themselves emotionally. Women feel scrutinized. Dating turns into a courtroom instead of a connection. Nobody wins in that environment. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about money. It's about identity. A man deserves to know if he's the father. A child deserves to know who their biological parent is. And accountability should not depend on...
So, what's your sign? So I'm looking for someone who's also financially stable and that has to work a 9 to 5 every day to live their life.
You have to have at least 3 cars under your name. Your second car has to have 8 seats because I have 3 kids. Oh, I want them to be comfortable whenever we go with you on a trip or something. You want me to come with you? I'm gonna bring my kids and you need to have enough space for my kids. So
just my finances.